The great secret of Queen Elizabeth I, was she really a man? In the gallery of the most well-known and appreciated monarchs in English history, Elizabeth I certainly holds an important place. Some associate her with the legendary idea of the Virgin Queen, others think of the grandeur of the Elizabethan court, while a few recall the famous victory over the Armada or the consolidation of the Anglican Church. However, regardless of the reason for Elizabeth's appreciation, no one can deny that her 44-year reign decisively influenced England's future. The theory that Queen Elizabeth I was a man. The Bisley Boy conspiracy claims that Queen Elizabeth I of England was, in fact, a man in disguise. This myth was popularized by Bram Stoker, the author of Dracula, in his non-fiction work Famous Imposters. According to this theory, when Elizabeth was about 10 years old, she was sent to Bisley, Gloucestershire, to escape the bubonic plague. It is said that she died of the disease just before her father, Henry VIII, came to visit her. Fearing Henry's wrath, Elizabeth's governess and guardian allegedly hid the princess's death and replaced her with a boy, Neville, who continued to pretend to be her. The theory is based on facts such as Elizabeth I never married and insisted that she was married to her country, her constant use of wigs, and her refusal to allow doctors to examine her, as well as the prohibition of an autopsy after her death. However, there are strong arguments against this theory. For example, there is no evidence that Elizabeth I was ever sent to Bisley. In addition, she had several romantic partners, and some of them, including King Philip II of Spain, would have surely noticed masculine characteristics if that were the case. Also, it was confirmed by the Queen's launderer that Elizabeth had regular menstrual cycles. It seems that the idea of this conspiracy began as a joke spread by a priest in the Bisley area, which was then amplified by Bram Stoker and the discovery of a hidden grave with the skeleton of a child in Tudor-era clothing. In conclusion, although the Bisley Boy theory is intriguing and was taken seriously by some historians and writers, including Bram Stoker, substantial evidence and historical analysis indicate that Elizabeth I was indeed a woman, as she always claimed. Elizabeth I faced more difficulties in her position as a monarch than any other Tudor. Born in 1533 as the daughter of Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn, her right to rule as Queen of England was always contested. Protestants, especially John Knox, initially argued that the reign of a woman was something unnatural, even monstrous, while Catholics considered Elizabeth a bastard since they did not recognize the marriage between Henry and Anne Boleyn. Unlike her father and brother, whose legitimacy was never questioned, Elizabeth confronted countless problems from the moment she ascended the English throne until the end of her life. Another difficulty was that she inherited a troubled kingdom. Religious persecutions during the time of Mary I, Elizabeth's sister, had disrupted communities and traumatized English Protestants and their sympathizers. The economic recession, poor harvests, and devastating epidemics in the mid-1550s created a general state of uncertainty. The humiliation of losing the region of Calais to the French in January 1558, England's last continental possession, destroyed the English people's confidence in their own military power and international prestige. Elizabeth successfully confronted these problems. She escaped the threat of the Catholics, imposed her will on the political scene, transformed England into a strong Protestant state, and died of natural causes at the age of 69. Her unusual situation as an unmarried queen, the only one in England's history, created an aura of mystery around her that endures to this day. Elizabeth's important place in English history was ensured, first and foremost, by the imposition and consolidation of the Protestant religion. Thanks to her determination, the Anglican Church remained sufficiently flexible and moderate. Elizabeth opposed excessively zealous Protestants who wanted to introduce a more austere discipline. Despite strong Catholic opposition, the form of Protestant faith imposed by the Act of Uniformity gained more and more adherents over time and became part of English culture. The Puritans tried to prohibit the use of the Book of Prayer in 1645, but it was immediately restored with some amendments upon the return of Charles II Stuart. English Protestantism survived also because Elizabeth knew how to deal with Catholic opposition. In England, she prevented and, when necessary, suppressed Catholic revolts and conspiracies without resorting to tyranny or religious persecution. It is true that she signed the execution warrant of Mary Stuart, Queen of Scots, but her reluctance to do so became legendary. It is also true that Jesuits were imprisoned or executed during her reign, but these persecutions mostly took place in the 1580s when it was believed that Spain and the papacy were using Catholic priests to destabilize the regime. Compared to her father, brother, and sister, and by the standards of the time, Elizabeth was a model of religious tolerance. Thanks to her, English history was not stained by religious massacres, and the country did not fall into civil war due to religious issues. The importance of Queen Elizabeth in the history of Great Britain is also a consequence of the victory over the Spanish Armada. Captured in paintings and, in contemporary times, in films, the 1588 victory saved England from Spanish invasion and domination. Moreover, this victory, the most important military success of the country since the Battle of Agincourt, restored England's confidence in its military strength, a confidence that underpinned the transformation of the English kingdom into the world's greatest naval power. Henry VIII is considered by most to be the founder of the English Navy, but his fleet was more for show, whereas Elizabeth's had a practical role in the development of the country. Elizabeth's sailors and ships led exploration journeys, laying the foundations of the process that would later lead to the birth of the Great British Empire. Of course, part of Queen Elizabeth's fame also comes from the fact that she is known as the Virgin Queen. During her reign, the fact that she remained unmarried was both a source of political turmoil and the source of her power. In any case, there are two important positive consequences. Her successor was James VI, the basis of the union between Scotland and England, a crucial event in the further development of Great Britain. Then, the fact that she had no husband transformed Elizabeth into a cultural icon. Her portraits from the 1580s to 1590s depict the archetypal image of Elizabeth, alone, majestic, with an expressionless face, an imperial attitude, and virginity represented by various symbols, pearls, cherries, ermine fur. Elizabeth has been the subject of fascination for centuries. Biographers and psychologists have wanted to discover how she could disregard all political and social norms and refuse marriage. Some wondered if the men at court, especially Leicester, Essex, and Hatton, were her lovers. Her early biographers and historians sought to explain how her rejection of love and motherhood affected her personality. Feminists are attracted to the idea of a woman who defies conventions and leads alone. And everyone wants to know how Elizabeth could govern the state without a husband in a man's world. Her sister, Mary, is the one who opened a new path in English history as the country's first queen, but Elizabeth shocked even more as an unmarried queen.